Welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to take a look at 2020 comedy thriller film called Promising Young Woman. At the beginning of the movie, we see three guys, Paul, Jerry, and Jim, dancing in a bar. While they talk to each other, they see a drunk girl named Cassandra who is sprawled on a sofa in the bar. Paul and Jim stare at her and talk about how attractive she looks. Jerry tries to interrupt them by bringing up official issues. Paul guesses that Cassandra is alone and might be picked up by some guy tonight. Suddenly, Jerry decides to go and check if she is alright. He sits down next to her and finds out she cannot find her phone. He then tells her he can drop her home in a cab. Cassandra looks at him gratefully and leans on him as they walk out of the bar. The cab driver, Monty, glances at Cassandra and suspects she will throw up in his cab. He tells Jerry he just got his car cleaned, but Cassandra assures him that she is not going to vomit. Then, Jerry asks Cassandra if she would like to have a drink with him as his apartment is only a few blocks away. Cassandra agrees and they go to Jerry's apartment where he offers her a glass of orange liqueur. He then takes drunk Cassandra to his bedroom and she lies in his bed. Jerry tells her how she is very beautiful, and when he tries to undress her, she becomes anxious and gets up right away. Surprised, Jerry looks at her and it's revealed that Cassandra was only pretending to be drunk. The next morning, we see Cassandra in last night's clothes, holding high heels in one hand, blood running in one elbow, and eating a hot dog. We see that she looks completely calm and whatever she did last night made her feel great. She walks past the construction workers who are working on the street and she hears one of them call out "Walk of Shame." She stops and stares at the workers, which makes them feel embarrassed, and she soon walks away. She returns home and writes Jerry's name in her diary containing a list of other men as well as blue or black tally marks. She then eats breakfast with her parents and her father. Stanley asks her why she wasn't home last night. She tells him she had to work late at the coffee shop to do the inventory. Then her mother, Susan, tells her that she should talk to her boss to change her shift so that she will not return home late at night. At the coffee shop, Cassandra's boss, Gail, tells her she has recommended her at the head office of the coffee shop. Meanwhile, a customer called Ruby comes in and tries to place an order, but Cassandra keeps talking to Gail and makes no attempt to serve Ruby, so she leaves the shop. After this, Gail tells Cassandra a guy named Johnny saw her drunk and alone at Fallout Bar last week and he was concerned. Cassandra tells her he must have seen someone else as she has never been there. Gail seems worried about her, but eventually lets it go. The next day, while working after the coffee shop, a customer named Ryan Cooper walks into the shop and asks for a cappuccino. He stares at her and realizes that Cassandra was his classmate at Forest Med School. He asks Cassandra about her job and asks her to go out with him. Cassandra looks at him dead in the eyes and gives him coffee after spitting in it. However, Ryan takes the coffee and drinks it. In the evening, Cassandra is shown putting makeup on in the mirror as she follows a makeup tutorial on YouTube. She goes to a guy's apartment whose name is Neil. He recommends she read some books and tells her about his novel. He makes her sniff some sort of drug and then he licks his finger, getting the bits of the drug she missed and rubs it in her gums. Cassandra is staring at him as he does this. Neil tells her that she doesn't need to wear makeup and he wants to see all of her freckles and imperfections. Cassandra asks him to call a cab as she wants to go home, but Neil insists that she stays and keeps kissing her. Then, she grabs his face and stares into his eyes. Neil becomes afraid and immediately jumps away. He constantly asks her to leave his house, but Cassandra reminds him that he wanted her to stay just a moment ago. She keeps coming closer and tells him she goes to a club every week and pretends to be drunk just so guys like Neil come and check on her to see if she's fine. Then, she appreciates his music taste and leaves. Cassandra arrives at her home shortly and adds a little line in her diary. She writes Neil with all the other names. Then she looks at a picture of two young girls hugging each other on the bedside and turns off the light. The next morning, Cassandra finds a large wrapped present on her chair at the breakfast table. She has forgotten her 30th birthday and her mother scolds her for being weird as Cassandra doesn't have any friends or a boyfriend. She never goes out to parties and spends the nights out without saying anything to her parents about it. Stanley consoles Susan and asks Cassandra to open her present, and she finds a large, beautiful suitcase. Cassandra tells Gail about her birthday present, and Gail suggests her to marry and have kids, but Cassandra tells her that she's not interested in any of that. Suddenly, Ryan walks into the coffee shop and tells Cassandra that she gave him a fake number to contact her. He tells her that he will not bother her if she's not interested. She tells him that she's not looking to date anyone currently. Then, Ryan asks if they could become good friends and asks her to go out with lunch with him. Cassandra considers it and gives him a warm smile. In the afternoon, she wears a pretty floral dress for lunch. When she is about to leave the house, her parents catch a glimpse of her and get happy and surprised at the same time. She then tells them she is going out to lunch with a friend and leaves. Ryan meets Cassandra at lunch and asks her why she did not continue med school. She tells him that she gave up because she wanted to do something else. Ryan praises her and tells her that she was always a brilliant student and could have become a great doctor. In the evening, they walk down the street and coincidentally arrive at Ryan's apartment. He asks Cassandra to join him upstairs for a drink, but then he thinks that it's too early to get that close into the relationship and feels like Cassandra would mind it. He tells her that he will drive her home, but she refuses and decides to get a cab. As she walks away, she looks broken and kicks over a garbage can. The next day, Cassandra goes to see Ryan at the hospital and tells him that she has never been in a relationship before, so she needs time. Ryan understands her and asks her to go out with him on the spot since his job shift has finished. Later in the evening, Ryan shows up at his coffee shop and chats with Cassandra. He tries to remind her of a girl named Madison McPhee from med school, but Cassandra pretends she doesn't remember. Then, he tells her about another classmate called Al Monroe who has come back to London a few months ago and is getting married to a model. Cassandra seems disturbed when she learns about Al Monroe and asks Ryan if he sees him often. He tells her that they are not very close and they just cross paths because of work, as Al Monroe is an anesthesiologist at the hospital. At night, Cassandra opens her laptop and searches for him. She sees his photo with his fiancée and scrolls down to see the comments beneath the photo. She stops at a comment by Madison McPhee and visits her profile and writes something down in her diary. She decides to take revenge on Al Monroe and the others responsible for getting him away with sexual assault case of her best friend, Nina. In the next scene, Cassandra and Madison McPhee meet up at a restaurant for lunch. Cassandra asks her if she remembers why she had dropped out of med school. She reminds Madison about the sexual assault of Cassandra's best friend Nina, but Madison still refuses to consider it really assault. She tells Cassandra that it was difficult to believe that Nina was raped because everything happened when she was drunk. Then Cassandra leaves and tells Madison she hasn't changed at all. She gives keys and money to a man called Tony to take Madison to a hotel room. Later, Cassandra receives a voicemail from Madison that she doesn't reply to. Madison tells her she was too drunk and she woke up in one of the hotel rooms. She tells Cassandra that she is frightened that something might have happened to her. Cassandra takes out her book and crosses out Madison's name. She takes a look at the name Walker, who is next on the list, who is the dean of Forest Med School and also her next target. She lures a girl named Amber from high school by telling her she works for the Wet Dream Boy band and she has to arrive at a castle diner, but she doesn't know the proper address. Amber gets excited to hear about the band and decides to guide Cassandra. After this, Cassandra goes to meet her dean, Walker, at Forest Med School and reminds her of the rape incident that happened 7 years ago. The dean tells her that she could not take action against Al Monroe because it could ruin his career. She tells Cassandra that Nina should not have drunk that night and joined the boys in the dorm after the party. Then, Cassandra tells her that she has dropped her daughter, Amber, to the same dorm and introduced the boys who live there now. But later on, when the dean decides to find herself guilty for what she did in Nina's case, she reveals her daughter is safe and waiting to see her favorite boy band at the castle diner. Cassandra regrets what she says to Walker and sits in her car with the face against the steering wheel in the middle of the road. Suddenly, she hears a loud honking and finds a guy in a pickup truck yelling at her. Cassandra grabs a wheel lock from the back seat and gets out of her car. She goes over to his car and smashes one of the brake lights. She also smashes his windscreen and goes around his window holding the wheel lock. The guy gets scared and speeds away, leaving Cassandra standing still in the middle of the road. Ryan meets Cassandra just when she returns home. He asks her to go out for a movie, but she refuses since she's very tired. Later at night, Ryan sees Cassandra at a bar with Paul and tells her that she should have told him if she was not interested. He gets disappointed and goes inside the bar. Then Paul learns Cassandra was pretending to be drunk and he remembers that she's the girl that went with Jerry. The next day, she visits her next target, Jordan Green, who is a lawyer. Jordan apologizes to her for not being fair in Nina's case. He tells her that he hasn't been able to sleep for a long time because of the guilt. She forgives him and refuses the man she hired to kill him. She then goes to meet Nina's mother, Mrs. Fisher, and they both recall Nina's memories. She urges Cassandra to move on because she makes her and her husband remember the rape incident and Nina's death way too often. Cassandra returns home and abandons her revenge plan and throws her diary in the dustbin. In the next scene, Cassandra shows up at Ryan's apartment and apologizes to him and they fall in love. Cassandra's life takes a new turn and she becomes very happy with him. Madison McPhee confronts Cassandra outside her house, desperate to know what happened after lunch. Cassandra reassures her that nothing happened. Madison gives her an old phone containing a video of Nina's incident. Cassandra watches the video and finds out that Ryan was a bystander. The next day, she goes to the hospital and threatens to release the video where Ryan can be seen unless he tells her where Al Monroe's bachelor party is being held. Ryan tells her the address and asks her to forgive him, but Cassandra refuses and leaves. Then Cassandra shows up as a stripper at Al Monroe's bachelor party in the woods. She drugs his friends and takes him to the bedroom upstairs. She handcuffs him to a bed and tells him that she is Nina Fisher. He reacts in disbelief as the real Nina is dead and then identifies her as Nina's best friend. He panics and offers her money and tells her he has done nothing wrong. He tells her that Nina was involved in whatever happened to her. As she starts carving Nina's name onto his stomach, he somehow gets rid of one of the handcuffs and suffocates her to death with a pillow. The next morning, Al Monroe's best friend Joe finds him still handcuffed next to Cassandra's body. He confronts him and tells him the murder was not his fault. Then he helps burn Cassandra's body in the woods. Cassandra's parents file a missing report and Detective Waller begins to investigate. He visits Ryan at the hospital, who tells him that Cassandra is mentally disturbed and does not tell him that Cassandra was heading to Al's bachelor party. At Al Monroe's reception, Ryan receives pre-scheduled texts from Cassandra that said that things aren't finished. The lawyer, Jordan Green, receives a package from her with the video of the rape and the details of where the police should look if she disappears. Gail finds Cassandra has given her half a heart-shaped necklace with Cassie's name. The police find the matching half with Nina's name in Cassandra's burnt remains. Ryan then watches as the police arrive and arrest Al Monroe for Cassandra's murder at the wedding reception, and the movie ends. Drop a comment below letting me know how you found the video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Thanks for watching, guys.